A little bit of info then on the CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloon Car Championship that we're going to see next. It's been running for nearly 40 years now. It started back in 1984, this series, which caters for pretty much any special sports car or modified saloon car. You can use almost anything you like in this series we're having on track next. There are 6 classes. Classes A, B and C are for specials, where just about any amount of modification, engine swapping is allowed. We've got a lot of Caterham 7 type cars and special GT and mod sports cars in those classes, while classes D, E and F are for modified cars. The cars have to retain their original production body shell and engine type, and we'll see in that more modified saloon cars and smaller sports cars. In Class E, we'll find the reigning overall champion, Jamie Cryer, in his Ginetta G20. He's looking to win the championship for the 3rd year in succession. We did catch up with a couple of the drivers earlier on in the paddock with Andy earlier this morning.
Well, anyone who has seen the CNC Head Sports Saloon Championship in the past will know of this man, Paul Dobson. You've been racing in this series for a while, let's say, but for the last few years, new machinery. You've clearly been getting to grips with it because you've qualified well here today. Tell us a bit about the car, though, first.
Yeah, the car's an MK with a Mazda rotary engine in it. It's running just over 300 horsepower. It goes really well, really well.
Yeah, it certainly does, because you've qualified, well, 3rd initially, but we've already spoken to John Wolfett. He's out, unfortunately. So you're back on the front row and on the class pole. So good news, bad news there, really.
Yeah, it should be close. Andy Southcott's got a really quick car on the front row, so we'll see how we get on. First few laps, we should stay with him and see what happens in the race.
Yeah, I noticed then when I said class pole, you didn't even register that. You're not interested in that, are you? You want the overall win?
Absolutely, overall's where it is, yeah. First to the checker flag, definitely, yeah. See how we go.
Now, this thing around here, I'd imagine is quite lively. It's a demanding circuit, this, and over those bumps and crests, I guess this thing gets a bit twitchy.
Yeah, it's lighting its tyres up in quite a few places. You've got to be quick to catch it. But yeah, it's a handful to drive, definitely.
Excellent. Well, best of luck starting on the front row. Good start to the day, and we'll see where you end up.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Rick Wood here with me in the paddock. Rick's going to be lining up on the 2nd row of the grid for the CNC Head Sports Saloon race. Rick, you know this place like the back of your hand. You've raced in a few of these races. What is it that keeps you coming back?
It's local, really nice people to race with. It's an amazing track, and it's my home event. So I love. There's unless you compare it with Spa or something like that, there's not a lot very similar. I know it's small, but it's still a fantastic track to race on.
And you've driven it in such an eclectic mix of cars. I never see you in what I would call a normal car. It's always a car with some sort of a history, something unique, and this one no different.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm fairly well known for my Capris, either the Group 1s or the big babies, the GA, the Cologne Capris. And then I fancied doing something else. I'd built a Zaxby Capri, so I thought I need to do something more modern. Everyone's getting a bit bored with E-types in the historic. I didn't want to build an RS500 because so many people were building them. Or what was going to compete Group A with an RS500? Well, it's the car that got banned because it was so quick. And 6 months later, it took me 6 months and 28 people that worked for me, and here we are. So it was a fair old journey to do it, but now we've kind of been banned with putting big boost in it. Okay. We're down to 1.25 bar boost. If we wind it up, they get upset. But it's quick, it's reliable, and it's so much fun to drive. But still Group A, so it's the original chassis. We're only allowed 10-inch tyres, so this has got full FIA papers. So it's a very restricted car. It's not like a GT where you're allowed to do things to it. You're not allowed to do things. So, but really interesting to do, and a challenge.
And you like a challenge, as we well know. What are your prospects for the race later on this afternoon, do you think?
Well, it's a saloon car still, so it's not going to beat a special saloon, but even so, it's a good shakedown for the motor racing legends that I do, with the RS500s. So it's really a test. I just want to finish the race. But if it rains, they better watch out, you know what I mean? So if we get a splatter of rain, four-wheel drive is just unbelievable. Well,
Rick, a pleasure to have you here. Best of luck out there today.
Thank you very much.
Well, great to hear from long-time saloon racer and collector Rick Wood there. He is also the championship sponsor through his business CNC Cylinder Heads, and he's in the Calsonic Nissan Skyline today, a car that players of the early Gran Turismo games will be very familiar with. We also welcome Himoinsa, a Yanmar company, as the other sponsors here today, and also carservicepacks.co.uk. Thanks to them for their sponsorship. Himoinsa, maker of low-emission generators, powering part of the paddock here at Oulton Park today. Let's have a look at the grid then. Well, the man who qualified fastest was number 94, John Wolfett, in his Spire GTR sports car. Unfortunately, he's had to withdraw because of an engine problem. So moving up into pole position is the man who qualified second quickest, Andy Southcott, in his Mod Sports MG Midget, the only Class A car in the race. I believe that car's got a Vauxhall red top engine in it. It did when I last saw it in action. So Andy Southcott on pole, alongside the man we heard from, Paul Dobson, 4 times champion in this series, with his MK chassis, basically like a Caterham but smaller, with a Mazda RX-7 engine in it. That'll be very lively around here. Second row, Rick Wood in the Skyline, and Oliver Thomas, he's in a Subaru Impreza. Then Tim Foxlow, he's in a space frame Mark 1 Escort, the Escort RSR, the ex-hot rod racer from the short ovals. Marshall Groves will start alongside him in his Vauxhall Vectra Challenge car. Remember those from the late 90s, supporting BTCC? Still 1 or 2 of them out there. Number 1, the reigning champion, Jamie Cryer, in Class E with the Ginetta G20, starts alongside Paul Rothero in the Aldridge Motor Bodies Citroen Zara. Zara, more famous as a rally car, but one on the circuits here. Then we've got number 7, Conor Modrow. He's in a Ginetta G40. And Mark Primet in the Banks Lotus Europa. That's another special GT type of car, something decidedly unusual. Row 6, Graham Smith, former Caterham champion. He's in a Mazda MX-5 alongside Rick Walker. Won his class championship last year. He's in a BMW Mini JCW. Row 7, Bod Buckby in his Caterham. He's in Class C, the only Class C entry here, alongside Ian Bamber. He's number 56 in another Ginetta G20. Jonathan White and Brian Allen on row 8. Helen Allen, leading player in the success of the British Women Racing Drivers Club, with her Fiesta on row 9, alongside Andrew Smith in the VW Beetle. Hopefully he's there, the modified VW Beetle, towards the back of the grid. And at the back, we should have seen Bob Claxton's VW Golf, but I saw that car on its trailer earlier on, so I don't think he's out. He had problems in qualifying. And at the back, we should see Clive Dix, the managing director of Himoinsa Generators. What a mixture of cars we've got out there. There's Paul Rothero in the one of the very few Citroen Zaras racing on the circuits. As we said, more famous in rallying and rallycross, that car. The Mod Sports MG Midget of Andy Southcott on pole. There's the Skyline of Rick Wood, one of his many classic saloon and touring cars. He's raced Ford Capris, Sierras, just about everything else in between. There's the Lotus Europa, number 72 of Mark Primet's. Mazda RX-8 for number 74. That is Jonathan White, the rotary engine car. And there at the back of the grid is Clive Dix in his RX-7. I think that might be one of Paul Dobson's old cars, actually. He used to race an RX-7, the engine of which is now in his bewinged 7-type car at the front of the grid. There's the Beetle of Andrew Smith towards the back. Great to have that car back out. I've not seen it for a couple of years. But this is a championship, as we said, where as long as it's a saloon or a GT car or sports car, anything goes, really. A lot of the old special saloons and special GT cars from the 1970s and 80s ended up in this series for a number of years. Tony Sugden in his space frame Skoda, which was effectively a single-seater chassis underneath, ended up in this series, winning many races. There's Tim Foxlow in the Mark 1 Escort RSR. Tim raced very successfully in the Super Rod series on the short ovals with a Capri, with a Ford V6 engine, and then moved into classic hot rods with a Mark 2 Escort. Pole position, we should see Andy Southcott streak away at the front of this one. How much quicker than the field? We'll see. Just over a second ahead of Paul Dobson in qualifying. Paul Dobson from Cheshire, a bus company boss. There's Oliver Thomas's Subaru. Not seen that out for a couple of years either. And the little red Ginetta of Jamie Cryer, looking to become the first man to win this championship 3 years in succession. Paul Dobson's won it 4 times, but not in successive years. The Ginetta there, the white machine, is driven by Ian Bamber from Lancashire. Now, Rick Wood, we'll see what he does here, because sometimes, if he's in one of his very powerful modified saloons or super touring cars, he likes to start from the pit lane and catch everybody else up. But we'll see what he does here, whether he pulls into the pit lane. Caterham of Bob Buckby further back there behind the BMW Mini. Brian and Helen Allen from Wolverhampton, the Ford Puma and the Fiesta. We said Helen does a lot behind the scenes for the British Women Racing Drivers Club. Bob Claxton, as I expected, not there with the Golf. Unfortunately, problems in qualifying, putting him on the trailer. Now, Rick Ward, no, he's not coming to the pit lane. He's going to start from the grid. The blue Mod Sports midget of Andy Southcott on pole. Paul Dobson in that lightweight. Low cost 7 alongside him. The big saloons on the second row, Rick Ward and Oliver Thomas. This will be a 20-minute race plus 1 lap. So when the clock goes to 0, the last lap board will go out. The BARC Northwest Zone, CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloon Car Championship about to get underway. Some very spectacular cars indeed in this race. 5-second board is held aloft from the gantry, waiting for the red lights to come on. They do so. It'll be a standing start. Red lights go out now, and away they go. The power comes on. Great start down the outside from Oliver Thomas in the Subaru. Not the best of starts for Andy Southcott from pole position. It's Paul Dobson in the low-cost 7 who leads into the first corner. Thomas in second place. The rest of them stream through behind. It's Southcott in third. He's held on ahead of Rick Wood, the championship sponsor, in the big Skyline. But look at the power of that rotary engine low-cost 7 with the Mazda RX-7 under the bonnet of Paul Dobson. He's cleared off in front already. Everybody else streams through behind. You can see the variety in this field. Dobson goes clear ahead of Oliver Thomas. Southcott and Wood now starting to get into their stride. Then Foxlow. The Vectra is next through. That's Marshall Groves. Behind him, the reigning champion, Jamie Cryer. 6 different classes, remember, in this race. Classes A, B and C for the specials cars, and Class D, E and F for modified, more original cars. Andrew Smith in the Beetle coming through towards the back of the field. Oliver Thomas, good to see him back out in the Subaru, under fire from Rick Wood. It's Southcott who's come through past the Subaru at Shell Oils into second place. There is Tim Foxlow, that beautiful Mark 1 Escort space frame. Over the top they come, down towards Hislops, then into Knickerbrook. Marshall Groves, the good start in the Vectra there. Deceptively standard looking car. See the circuit's still a little damp out there. I think we've had a few drops of rainfall before this race. Well, Paul Dobson's not phased. He's disappeared into the lead. There he is. Southcott starting to reel him in, though. Then further back in third, the 2 specials there at the front have left behind the big saloons of Thomas, Wood, then Foxlow, then Groves, Cryer, Paul Rothero in behind them. Then the Banks Lotus Europa of Mark Primet next in the order. Rick Wood side by side with Thomas, the big Calsonic Skyline going through up the inside. We've seen him compete in that car with the likes of touring car racer Jake Hill at events at Goodwood in the past. They've also shared a Ford Capri from Rick Wood's very impressive collection of classic touring cars. And up into second place goes Rick Wood. Foxlow into fourth place. Into fifth place, I should say, because it's Dobson from Southcott at the front of the field. I apologise. Then we've got Marshall Groves, then Jamie Cryer. He is leading his class, going for his 3rd consecutive title. Nobody has achieved that in the 38-year history of this championship in the past. Andy Southcott keeping pace with the Mazda engine low-cost, flames from the exhaust of the race leader. Well, Andy Southcott didn't get the quickest of starts. That car is stronger at rolling starts in other series. Flames out of that exhaust from the Mazda RX-7 engine, rotary 1300cc lump under the bonnet. Over the top they come, down towards Hislops and Knickerbrook, the 2 leaders in the clear. Who's going to come over the top in 3rd place? Will it be Rick Wood? It certainly is. There's the Skyline. He's pulled away a bit now from Oliver Thomas. Tim Foxlow in 5th position with the space frame Escort. Puff of smoke out of the back of Rick Wood's Skyline. There are the leaders together into the right-hander at Druids. Nasty double apex corner there. Chase their way under the bridge. Southcott's recovered from his slightly slow start. He's all over the back of Paul Dobson. We saw Chris Southcott in action for the family recently at Silverstone in his Honda Civic in the classic touring car 303 series. Southcotts have both raced this very impressive Mod Sports midget in various classic revival series over the years. It's Paul Dobson, who used to race a Mazda RX-7, raced that to a couple of titles before putting the engine into this lightweight 7-type chassis. These two flying away out in front, well ahead of everybody else. Fastest lap of the race by Southcott, 1:45.909 that time through. They're nearly 14 seconds clear of everybody else already, and I saw an umbrella up there, so it looks like it has started to rain here at Oulton Park, unfortunately. There's Graham Smith, won many titles in Caterhams, now in the red Mazda MX-5. Done some historic racing, competed at the Monaco Historic a few years ago. Chasing number 56, Ian Bamber with his Ginetta. Behind them, the BMW Mini JCW of Rick Walker, won the Class D title last year. Graham Smith won Class F for the more standard cars. Of course, in the last couple of years, never mind that, because here comes Andy Southcott down the inside into his lops, and he's through. Takes the lead. Good move by Andy Southcott into the lead, the pole sitter for this race. Inherited pole when John Wolfett in the Spire GTR had to withdraw. Engine trouble at the end of qualifying for him, sadly. Up and over the top at Clay Hill they go. As I was about to say, we normally saw over the last few years the Saker sports cars dominating the front of the field, the likes of Paul Rose and Steve Harris. But Saker's not running in this series this year, so a chance for some new names to shine at the sharp end. Southcott has taken the lead. Maybe a northwest-based series, but anyone from around the UK can race in it. And Andy Southcott here all the way from Southampton today. We've got Conor Modrow, who's here with his Ginetta from Newbury, down in Berkshire. So Marshall Groves, he's from Cambridgeshire. And Paul Rothero and the Allen family are all from the West Midlands. 1-8 there, Rick Walker with his BMW Mini, chasing Graham Smith and Ian Bamber. Still 14 minutes to race. Oh, Brian Allen is off. That's the Ford Puma out of the race. Not sure what's happened there, whether he's had a spin or whether he's pulled over. That's yeah, I think he's pulled over. That's on the entry to Island Bend. So there'll be yellow flags out there for the yellow Puma. Brian Allen, the man from Wolverhampton, out of the race. Anybody else so far? Doesn't look like it. Helen Allen, so representing the family towards the back of the field. Helen, NHS worker, doing a lot of key work through the recent pandemic. There she is. She's just been lapped by the race leader. Andy Smith has pulled the VW Beetle into the pits as well. That car on its comeback race. Away goes Andy Southcott. Plenty of laps to go in this first race of the season for the CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloon Car Championship, also supported by Car Service Packs and by Himoinsa. Clive Dix, their MD, out in this race in the RX-7. He's back in 16th place. There's Helen Allen. And here is a replay, and it was looks like an engine blow-up, unfortunately for Brian Allen. The Puma expires in a cloud of smoke, and he pulls over. Shame for Brian, one of the favourites in Class F, which is currently being led by Graham Smith. Paul Dobson laps Helen Allen in her Fiesta. Here's Rick Wood. He's dropped Oliver Thomas now by nearly 8 seconds in the what was the battle for third place. Yeah, definite memories of Gran Turismo 2 with that car. Oh, Paul Dobson pulling into the pits. Paul Dobson has pulled up. That's a great shame. On for second overall, so it's Rick Wood now up into second, but 21 seconds, nearly 22 seconds down on Andy Southcott. Third place will be Oliver Thomas, about 8 or 9 seconds further back, and next will be Tim Foxlow. So I'm not sure what the problem is for Paul Dobson there, the 4 times champion. His mechanic in attendance. The bonnet is being undone, so this looks like a retirement for Paul Dobson, sadly. Yep, the bonnet is coming off, and that's usually a sign of a terminal problem. What a shame for Paul Dobson. He was in a safe second place. Unlucky 13 indeed. BMW Mini of Rick Walker has gone ahead of Ian Bamber. Graham Smith behind them. That's the fight for 11th overall. Rick Walker, is he leading his class? No, Class D is being led by Rick Wood. For consistency and out-and-out speed that bought Rick the class title last season. So it's Southcott leading Class A. He's the only Class D car out there. Paul Dobson was leading Class B, but that will now be Tim Foxlow in the Escort. Class C, there's just the one runner, Bob Buckby in the Caterham. The bright blue Caterham further back. Class D is Rick Wood. Class E, Jamie Cryer has become the norm. Class F being led by Graham Smith. Paul Dobson, is he coming back out? No, he's going into the paddock, so problem is terminal. Close up there of Oliver Thomas in the Subaru. Good to have him back out. Raced a couple of evolutions of this Subaru over the years in this championship. Could be on for an overall podium here. Currently second in class behind Rick Wood in the large capacity modified class as opposed to the specials. 3 specials class and the 3 modified classes organised by engine size. Great way to go motor racing with this series. You can use just about anything you like as long as it has its basis in a road car. Some do stretch the envelope a little, like Paul Dobson's Spire GTR, which is virtually a sports racer. Further back in the order, here's Conor Modrow, number 7 with the little Ginetta. He's in 10th place. Sorry, 9th place. He's just got ahead of the Banks Europa of number 72, Mark Primet. It's a low car, that is, the Europa. Sadly, not as well remembered in Lotus history as its cousins like the Elan and the Elise. Lead gap last time through was 25 seconds for Andy Southcott. So it looks like he's safe in the overall lead in the Class A car, the quickest of the specials. Then we've got Rick Wood leading the modified section, Class D. Modrow up to 8th now with the demise of Paul Dobson. In fact, the Europa is 9th of Primet. Don't think he's any relation to Stephen Primet, who is the Pre-83 Group 1 Touring Car Champion. We saw him out last weekend at Silverstone. Perfectly in the period livery, that Calsonic Skyline with the names on the side. Toshio Suzuki and Kazuyoshi Hoshino. Kazuyoshi Hoshino, if you look at his record, arguably Japan's greatest ever racing driver. Raced in 1 Grand Prix back in the 70s, but his record in Japanese top-line national racing is second to none. He raced this Skyline in Japanese touring cars for many years, a Skyline identical to this one. Andy Smith has got going again in the Beetle, albeit slowly. May as well get a few more racing laps in, I suppose. Oliver Thomas in 3rd place in the Subaru, going steadily. The lead gap is now 30 seconds for Andy Southcott, so as long as he keeps going over the forthcoming 8 minutes plus 1 lap, he will take the overall win. There is the leader. He's coming down towards Britain's chicane. Left, right, left, keeping it off the curbs. Nicely done by the Mod Sports Midgets. Mod Sports series back in the 70s for modified sports cars. He has lapped Bob Buckby, who's in 13th place. Have we lost any more cars? It doesn't look like it. Andy Smith's back in the pits, incidentally. Still problems with the Beetle. We've lost Brian Allen and Paul Dobson. Brian Allen in a cloud of smoke in the Puma. Paul Dobson into the paddock. Main battle, I think, now is for 4th place between Tim Foxlow in the Space Frame Escort and Marshall Groves in the Vectra. They're in different classes, but they're together on track. And just behind them is Jamie Cryer, the Class E leader in his Ginetta. Man from Ramsbottom in Lancashire, looking for title number 3 this year and going the right way about it. He's clear in Class E. There's also the battle between Modrow and Primet further back. Clive Dix has been lapped in the Mazda RX-7. Not sure if that is the ex-Paul Dobson car, because he did have a red RX-7 in the colours of Lightning McQueen for a few years. Popular with younger fans. Here's Paul Rothero, the man from Walsall. The Aldridge Motor Bodies Citroen Zara. Been with this championship for a number of years now. There's not many series where a Zara can be competitive in circuit racing, so it's nice that he's found his niche here. He's running in 7th place, 2nd in Class E. Zara, most famous, of course, being rallied by the likes of Sebastian Loeb. Rallycrossed by the great Kenneth Hansen. Saw Swede. Rothero. Daring to be different in UK circuit racing with this car. Great to see it out there. Tim Foxlow has caught Oliver Thomas. Foxlow upping his pace. He's on the tail of a potential overall podium here. He's caught Thomas in the Subaru. Slapping one of the slower markers there, the Mazda RX-8 that was, of Jonathan White. There's Marshall Groves, not far behind them in the Vectra Challenge car either. Vauxhall Vectra Challenge. Trying to remember some of the names from that. Mark Blair, Flavio Figueiredo. Who else was there? I think Mark Lemmer racing it for a time, the man behind Barwell Motorsport. Mark Blair actually won a drive in the independence class of BTCC, winning that series. So a nice little scrap developing for third place here. Tim Foxlow is going for it. Expect some outside moves on the corners from Tim Foxlow from his short oval experience with the Capri V6 and this other Mark II Escort. I believe classic Ford racer Daz Owens still owns the ex-Foxlow car, if memory serves me right. I could be wrong, of course. Daz Owens owns a number of classic Fords. Here comes Foxlow. One of the most successful racers in the old Super Rod formula with the big Ford V6 engines, along with Stu Donald, the man from Scunthorpe, Wilson Hamilton as well. Foxlow could get onto the overall podium. Chasing hard on the tail of the Subaru. They're coming up to lap Clive Dix in the Himoinsa RX-7. He moves aside, just about lets them through. No change of position though. That's allowed Marshall Groves to close up a little in the Vectra. The lead gap is over 30 seconds still. This is the main battle now for third place, and Foxlow having a look as they come down into Old Hall. He's going through. Is he going to turn it back in time? He makes it stick. Good move, Tim Foxlow in number 144. It's a beautiful Escort going superbly. The best I've seen it run for some time. Marshall Groves, he's got past Dixie as well now in the RX-7. Subaru is not letting him get away here. Oliver Thomas trying to fight back in the number 45, the man from Halifax in Yorkshire. 3.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Don't forget, when the clock counts down to 0 in this race, you won't see the checkered flag. We will see the last lap board come out. Up considerably now, the Subaru, as they come towards Hislops. There's Rick Walker. Is he in the lead of his class? No, he's not this time. There is the leader in behind him, Andy Southcott. Haven't forgotten about him. He's away in front. It's usually the quickest Class A cars and take the overall wins, and with no Sakers this year, it was always going to be pretty much plain sailing at the front for Andy Southcott. Races with the CSCC's Special Saloons and Mod Sports Revival Series in that car in the past, as has his brother Chris. Battling the likes of Baby Bertha, the ex-Jerry Marshall car. Here's Oliver Thomas. He's going to try and play Tim Foxlow at his own game here at Lodge. Doesn't get through there, not close enough to get the overlap. Shows the variety in this series. A Mod Sports Midget, a Japanese touring car replica Skyline, a Space Frame Mark I Escort, and a modified Subaru Impreza in the top 4 places, and then a Vectra Challenge car. Where else in motorsport can you see a mix like that? Here's the fight still going on further back. Conor Modrow in the red Ginetta, and Mark Primet in the Banks Europa. Up the inside, goes through. Good move there at Lodge. That is for 8th position. And second in Class B, leading Class B, is Tim Foxlow. That Escort, of course, is a special rather than a modified, because it's a space frame car, and that Europa is fishtailing around there. He's really throwing that car around, Mark Primet. I wonder if he is related to Stephen Primet, the Mark I Escort master, because they've got a similar driving style. But Conor Modrow, ooh, he was squeezed there. I don't think Primet realised Conor Modrow was there trying a move on the outside. Nearly ended up going around the short circuit. Here's the fight for third. So there's battles developing everywhere. You look, good racing here from the CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloon Car Championship, administered by the Northwestern Centre of the BARC. Look at the way Mark Primet is chucking that Banks Europa around. It's Great stuff. I remember seeing, I forget the name of the driver now, but I remember seeing one of those back Europas in a rally a few years ago. Not what you think of as a rally car, but it certainly drove with aplomb. Little Ginetta behind him. Conor Modrow. All the way from Newbury in Berkshire to race here today. Less than a minute left on the clock. Should get 2 more laps out of this. I think the leader, yes, has already gone through to complete his 10th lap, as here comes Oliver Thomas. Is there room on the inside? Foxlow squeezes in there. That was close. Good defensive line by Tim Foxlow, but the Subaru Impreza is going to be in the Escort slipstream here as they head over the line, is he? Is he going to try and power through on the outside? You're not getting the tighter line away from me, says Tim Foxlow. 20 seconds on the clock. Escort's got the weight advantage, the lightweight space frame. Keeps ahead. This is good driving by Tim Foxlow, looking for an overall podium. He's in the lead of Class B. There's our Class A and overall leader. Coming round to start his final lap this time, Andy Southcott. 41 seconds clear of Rick Wood in the skyline. He's leading Class D. Jamie Cryer is leading Class E. As we quickly look at the timing screen, there's just about time. Class C is being led by the only entrant, Bob Buckby in the Caterham. Who's leading Class F? It's Graham Smith in the Mazda MX-5. Thomas got a good exit there from Shell Oils. He cuts back across, but at Britain's, the Escort again defends. Now he's right on him there as they come over Hilltop. This is going to be interesting into the chicane at Knickerbrook. They're coming up to lap Bob Buckby's Caterham as well. And the Subaru of Oliver Thomas pulls round the outside. He's got him. Good move there, Oliver Thomas. Back into a podium place. They are in different classes, these two, so it won't harm Tim Foxlow's points accumulation too much here. He finishes behind the Subaru, as he'll want an overall podium for pride. Oliver Thomas in the same class as Rick Wood, Class D. They're lapping the Class C leader. Look out, Bob Buckby. They're hanging up on the Caterham there. That's allowed Thomas to pull away a little. We're on the last lap of the race now. Here comes Andy Southcott. Lapping about 3 seconds a lap quicker almost than Rick Wood behind him. It's been a stroll in the park on this Saturday afternoon for Andy Southcott. Oulton Park, that is. Made a bit of a slow start and lost the lead early on, but once his main rival, Paul Dobson, pulled off into the paddock, he's been way out in front. Andy Southcott in the Mod Sports MG Midget. Up the hill he goes. Towards Druids. Coming up to lap Helen Allen in her Fiesta. Blue flag showed to Helen Allen there just to warn her the leader was coming through. No problem at all for Andy Southcott. A dominant display it has been. Quite as dominant as the British endurance race. He's not going to win by a full lap, but it's going to be almost a full minute. Here he comes up towards the line then, and Andy Southcott takes the checkered flag, takes the win in the BARC Northwest CNC Heads Sports and Saloons Championship season opener by a clear margin. The only Class A entry takes the overall win. Rick Wood is going to take second in the Nissan Skyline and win Class D, but the next question is who is going to be third? Continuing at full pace there. I don't think he's seen the checkered flag, Andy Southcott. Waiting to see who's going to come through in third place. The Skyline of Rick Wood should come home in second place. There's Rick Walker over the line. He finishes in 10th in his BMW Mini. There is the Skyline of Rick Wood. Sometimes he likes to start from the pit lane to give things a bit more competition, but went from the grid this time. Started third, will settle for second place overall. A flash of flame from the exhaust of the Skylines. He comes out of Deer Leap to take second place. Now, who is going to be third? Is it the Subaru or the Escort? Here they are. It's going to be the Subaru because there's a back marker in between the two of them, Graham Smith's MX-5, as they come out of the final corner. Oliver Thomas will take third on his return to racing in the Subaru Impreza, and second place in Class D. Tim Foxlow in fourth, wins Class B, and a good finish for Marshall Groves in the Vectra, fifth overall and third in Class D. Jamie Cryer should be next home in the Ginetta. There's Bob Buckby a lap down in his Caterham. He wins Class C, 13th overall. And there's Jamie Cryer, who starts off his title defence in style with a class win and a fine 6th overall. Class F won by Graham Smith, who we saw come over the line in 12th place. It's going to be a short break after this race before later on. Don't go away because we have the Praga Cup coming up, and I know that's the race a lot of you want to see. I'm sure you've all been asking on our comments thread. Yes, Jimmy Broadbent is racing, but there'll be 11 Pragas out in that race. Okay, let's have a look at the result then. Andy Southcott the winner by 52 seconds in the end, ahead of Rick Wood, who wins Class D and the modified section in his Skyline. Oliver Thomas third in the Subaru after a good battle with Tim Foxlow. He takes out Class B. Marshall Groves and Jamie Cryer completing the top 6. Cryer winning Class E. Then it was Mark Primet who topped his fine battle with Connor Modrow further back. They were the last 2 cars on the lead lap. Graham Smith wins Class F further back in 12th, and Bob Buckby in the Caterham 13th wins Class C. Clive Dix and Jonathan White finished behind him. In fact, Jonathan White pulled into the pits, I can tell you, on the last lap. The other finisher behind them was Helen Allen, and of course we lost Paul Dobson into the paddock. Andy Smith in the Beetle had problems. Brian Allen, we saw, sadly blew up early on in that race in his Ford Puma. Well done then to the CNC Heads Sports and Saloon Car Championship, administered by the BARC Northwest Centre. Thanks to their sponsors, CNC Cylinder Heads, Car Service Packs, and also Himoinsa, a Yanmar company. Thanks to their support of that excellent series. We'll hopefully see them out later in the season. Their next round is in a couple of weeks' time at Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire. They're back here at Oulton at the end of May. They also go to Croft, Donington Park and Anglesey. So quite a season of travel for the CNC Heads Sports and Saloon Car Championship. 1 or 2 cars to be recovered from out on the circuit. In fact, it may well be just the one. I think Brian Allen's Puma, there it is, the only car to be recovered. The recovery vehicle's already with him. There's going to be a short gap until our next race, which is was originally due off at about 4:35. It'll be a few minutes behind schedule, of course. It'll be a 1-hour race for the Praga Cup. There should be 11 cars in that race. There's going to be a short pause, but first of all, we will, of course, hear from our successful drivers in the CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloon Car Championship. Just waiting for the cars to make their way back into Parc Fermé. It is quite a long lap here. That's the Oulton Park International Circuit. Brian Allen's car, you can see a pool of fluid, unfortunately, there. That's engine, Ford Puma engine has let go. Hopefully we'll see him back out later in the season. Hope you're enjoying the action so far. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Give us a like on the stream. And thanks a lot to all the marshals and other volunteer officials here at Oulton Park today. Could not go racing without the Orange family, the recovery crews, the medical staff and everybody else here at Oulton Park today. There'll be a pause in action of about 20 minutes. And we can now hand over to Andy McEwen down in Parc Fermé to talk to some of the drivers.
Well, as always, plenty going on out there in the CNC Heads Sports Saloons Championship. Drivers, as you can see, are just filtering down into Parc Fermé. So let's dive in, shall we, see who we can find. Andrew Southcott getting himself the race victory. He's parked over that way, but I think we might try and grab Rick Wood whilst we're next to his car. The Nissan coming home in second place at the end of that one. Rick, congratulations. Solid run there to second place. Happy with that?
Yeah, I had a problem with power steering. We had a tiny leak on a pipe, and we thought, oh, we'll be all right. No, 2 laps in, I lost my power steering, so hampered me 10 seconds a lap.
Oh, wow.
So, but fine, you know, we're here to test and make sure it's okay. So, yeah, just a small problem, one of those things.
You must need arms like Popeye to get this thing round here with no power steering.
You just try and turn it, you know, both, you know, I had 2 seconds of relaxation down the straight, and then the rest of the time it's got that much camber. It's literally a car without power and steering, weighing 1,500 kilos.
Because it's not just going around the corners, is it? But if you hit a bump, if you go over a crest, it's wriggling around.
Absolutely. I'm not the weakest of guys, but I'm not the strongest. But that was my limit. That was my limit.
Well, I'd like to say a good solid test, and I'm sure you'll be able to get to the bottom of that. How was the start of the race for you? Because I bet you had a bit of work to do there.
At the start, yeah, I love starts. I don't drive it that hard off the line because the front discs on these are a little bit weak. So I just drive it off the line. Generally we do rolling starts. So, but yeah, it's fine, good. But like I was praying for rain, and it nearly happened. But we just needed a bit more rain, and it would have been really great. But saying that, I had no power steering, so
that might have been really lively.
Yeah. I wouldn't advise anyone to try it.
Congratulations, Rick Wood, then second place overall at the end of that one. That sounds like that would have been a pretty torturous race out there. Right then, let's see if we can find Oliver Thomas. His Subaru is here, and Oliver typically has wandered away. And anyway, we'll see who else we can find. Well, let's go and find Southcott, shall we then? Who got himself the race win. I think he is stood dutifully by the side of his car. And we'll be able to have a word then with Andrew Southcott, who came home victorious in the MG Midget. And Andrew, congratulations. Nice easy win in the end.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened to Paul Dobson. He's in front of me from the start. I don't know what happened. I got past him then, but I think he let me past actually, so he must have had a problem. But otherwise, the other guy who qualified first obviously blew his engine up, didn't he? So, which is unfortunate. Yeah. I don't think I would have caught him.
Well, take your good fortune when you can, I guess. Once you got out there and you got that lead, is it difficult to keep your concentration in that situation?
Yeah, it was. Someone had an engine blow just after Cascades, and it was all over the track, so I was sort of up on the left-hand right-hand side. But apart from that, yeah, it does. You just slow down, don't you, and sort of just try and get past the back markers and, just pick your time and moment sort of thing. But
that's always been one of the, not unique, but certainly challenging things about this series, the speed differential across the classes. It means that even when you have got a big lead, you can't really relax, can you?
No, you're absolutely right. But most of the guys here, I mean, there is a massive speed difference, as you say, but most of the people here are really, really good. They'll give you space, get out of the way. No, it's a real friendly series. It's pretty good, yeah, really.
Excellent stuff. Well, a flawless performance for you. Andy Southcott then the winner at the end of that one. Right, who else can we find? I really would like to have a word with Oliver Thomas, who came home in second place. James Cryer is here. We'll grab you, James, if that's all right,
yes,
because you, as always, were right in the thick of the action there. How did you find that one?
Yeah, it was good, yeah. Quite nice and quiet, to be honest. For the first race of the season, quiet race isn't always a bad thing. So,
no.
But yeah, enjoyed it. Car went fine after a few dramas in pre-season, so yeah.
Been doing this for a little while now, haven't you? You're one of many drivers that seems to enjoy this series and just sticks around.
Yeah, it's a great series. It's just friendly. We all got to the pub together last night, and then racing today, and it's never a bad word between us. So yeah, it's good.
Tell us a bit about the car, because we don't see that many of those things out on racetracks these days, do we?
No, obviously a lot of them came from the challenge, which that did, and then we've just developed it over the years. Made it quicker and quicker, but yeah, they all seem to have had a hard life, whereas that one, a couple of years in the challenge hill climb, it was it's quite a good car for a G20.
Excellent stuff. Well, congratulations on getting to the end in one piece there. Right then, I'm just going to dive in here. Sorry, Peter.
Very good.
How did that one go for you? From one Ginetta to another Ginetta here, slightly different to James's example. How did you find it out there?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I had a good battle throughout the whole race, and tyres just started to go off towards the end, so I couldn't keep up with the silver one, which I was battling the whole way through. And it wasn't too bad, thank you.
How much of this series have you done before? Because it's a while since I've covered this one personally.
I've been here about 4 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm fairly new, but I've been karting since I was 10, so I've been doing that, and then once I was old enough, I went into cars.
And what made you pick this series in particular?
Just diversity. You can pick any car you want and race it, do anything you want to the car, and then it's all ready to go.
It's sort of dying out, I think, the sports saloon formula at the moment. I really like it as a spectator, certainly, because you have this, like you say, amazing variety of car, but it must make life a bit challenging out there. You never quite know what you're going to be racing from one race to the next.
No, exactly, yeah. You're always battling with different cars every track. So sometimes my car will be quite good at Oulton, sometimes it'll be quite good at Donington or wherever. But yeah, it's a different battle each time.
Excellent stuff. Well done. Another driver safe to the end of the race. Right, so Ricky Walker is here, I think. He heard felt his ears burning then. From the rear-wheel drive Ginetta to a front-wheel drive Mini. What we were saying about variety out there. How was that one for you?
Yeah, it was good. At the start, I was on slicks, so they were a bit cold, so I had a bit of a play with Graham in the MX-5 and the Ginetta. Then I got my tyres warm and slowly sort of got back to him, got past him, and did sort of lap after lap, bit of consistency. So it was good fun, enjoyed it.
Like you say, out there in one of the few front-wheel drive cars, really. So off the line, I'd imagine that's not ideal. Do you have to sort of keep an eye out for people coming behind you?
Yeah, a little bit. This Janetta came past me as if I was stood still, which was obviously interesting on the grid, but yeah, got back up. So yeah, it just takes a bit of warmth to get in the rear tyres when everyone else seems to get them in a bit easier than me. So.
And that snow before the start probably didn't help that.
Yeah, the decision, I was going to go into Inters and I thought, no, we'll go on to slicks, and then it started snowing. It was definitely, I was cursing a few of the people going round on the first lap, but yeah, it worked all right. It did all right. It was good.
Good stuff. Well done, mate. Right, I can see Tim Foxlow over in his Ford Escort. Going to have a word with him, I think. James Cryer just ducking into the car to have a chat with him. But this is, again, a great example of the variety. We've got front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, old, new machinery. But Tim, a bit of a veteran racer himself. Tim, try and crouch down if my back will allow it. No, I meant that well, trust me. How did that go out there for you? This car a bit of a handful?
It was a brilliant race. Ollie and I were swapping places all the way through, side by side, a bit like being back on the ovals, really. Probably a fag paper between us. So, no, it was a really good race. The car worked well. I got a sticky throttle, which, was a bit hairy at one moment. I had to put it sideways to slow it down. But apart from that, we had a good race. I don't know, someone just said I won first in class. So
I think you did, yeah.
That's the first for me on the circuits.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, really pleased. And off next weekend to Brands with my son and the Fiesta Juniors. So, nice way to finish this weekend. Yeah, that'll do.
Excellent stuff. Well done to you. Right, I think that might be all we're able to get. A lot of the drivers are filtering off now. Really entertaining race that for the CNC Heads Sports Saloons, as always, with still more racing here to come from Oulton Park.